Hunger Project, which was a ultimate experience of making the impossible possible. You know, hunger was considered hopeless.
It's even kind of a joke. What are you trying to do? End world hunger? This was very, very inspiring to me. The juxtaposition of the impossible and that it could be made possible by galvanizing people and shifting the context or how people related to world hunger.
We formed a very good triad with Jay's leadership and Mike's energy, and perhaps I would be holding a certain space of transformation.
Wait a minute, we can transform it? We can actually eliminate it? Sign me up. Working in the Hunger Project for 6 years on staff, I left that, and that's when Joe Friedman and Michael Gaddu, who I'd worked with in the Hunger Project and were now working at a consulting firm, they asked me if I would join them.
By August, we had formed JMJ.
Our vision was that we could take our skill at enrollment, which you could call service-based sales, and we could use that skill that we developed at the Hunger Project of taking complexity and taking unworkability and straightening it up and cleaning it up, and voila, their results would bloom.
Our clientele for the first 2 years were small businesses. We had a winery in San Francisco, we had a couple car dealers, we had a roofing company in Berkeley, a couple software developers.
Mike made the organization with nothing, nothing going into it, turn into a viable enterprise, and Joseph turned all these abstract and kind of brilliant but elusive elements of magic into something that could play out at Vogel Chevrolet. And then my job was to make it real in the world.
We won the Rookie of the Year award from going 0 to $1 million faster than anyone ever had. Jay made up a rule that even though it was just the three of us, and it was just this funky little office building in Corte Madera, California, that we would come to work every day wearing a suit, a coat and tie. You know, it was like we had a dress code. Every day it was joyous, it was hilarious, it was fun.
We had been doing the small businesses for 18 months when we were introduced to the air products and chemicals work.
The purpose of the air products project was to construct a sister plant to the existing polyvinyl alcohol plant that was operating in Calvert City, Kentucky. The Houston location was chosen so it could be adjacent to an existing air products chemical plant.
They asked, could I work with them to help design a program that would allow them to do a more partnering approach between Bechtel, Brown and Root Braun, and Air Products. And instantly I thought, okay, this is the place to bring Jay.
Marie Case, if you're listening to this, blow you a kiss.
But Jay and I hit the court and designed together an approach to partnering on a project that lasted over a couple of years that the lead client for was Steve Portner.
It was the first time in the project environment that we formed a high-performance team.
The project was a great success. It was the USA National Business Roundtable Project of the Year. It set all kinds of wonderful precedents and won a big award. And as a result, Air Products and Chemicals and Bechtel and Brown and Root all hired us.
We changed lanes then. We stepped from working with Charlie Barker Plumbing and Perry's Restaurant and you know, the Carpet Mart of South San Francisco to all of a sudden working with Air Products Corporation and Bechtel Corporation.
So Bechtel introduced us to Mobil, and then they introduced us to Chevron. I couldn't spell capital projects. So we very strategically went out and hired Dick Litzau, Steve Portner, Dick Hoover, Steve Nisley, Rick Bear.
When I got to JMJ and saw the people were what we were doing, and then talked to Jeffrey about the safety program and IAF and what we were trying to make happen, no questions in my mind. Rick Bear is the first guy I'm going to call.
And Steve said they were considering creating a safety practice and were interested to have me join them.
We developed a friendship over the years, and I have the utmost respect for the guy. As I said, he was an extraordinary mentor and a great leader of people, and a huge heart and passion for safety.
We had developed a practice that there wasn't a market for.
Initially, we couldn't sell it.
We got a call from Intel.
So Intel, you ready? Called us in and said, we want to start this in this plant in Arizona. In a matter of like a day, we realized they just wanted the result, but they didn't want to transform themselves. And we said, we're not going to work for you. And we left.
And they said, whoa, who do you want to talk to? And we gave them a list of people, and all of a sudden, you know, their calendars opened up a bit like the heavens.
They had a real meeting, maybe one of the first real meetings. Like, what are we really up to? They called us back. We went in, made the difference, and then we went to every Intel project around the world. And then Chevron heard about that, and then BP heard about Chevron. One day I'm at my office, and a guy from Mobile calls, and he says, hey Jay, how are you doing? I go, great, it's the head of projects. I said, we've got another project for you. I said, great, what is it? He said, he described it, and I said, that's an unusual name, where is it? I'm thinking, it must be down in like Louisiana. I'd be in Lagos, Nigeria. I said, oh, we don't work in Lagos, Nigeria. He says, oh, now you do. I said, right. Yes, that's correct. We now do work in Lagos, Nigeria. I had forgotten. And so then we started that, and then Tengiz Chevroil in Kazakhstan, and that's why we moved to London, and we set up the London office based on that.
Jay got together a lot of his old colleagues, people he knew in the industry. That's where we got Dennis Percy involved, Mark Britton started getting involved.
Jay had a habit of taking us to really exotic places for recruitment. Mine was on a 6-hour bus ride from the Tengiz camp back to Atyrau.
We go on this bus, 11-hour bus trip through tundra, and it's so dangerous that you have to have 2 buses. One with the people in it and one that would follow. Because if the one with the people in it ever broke down, everyone would freeze to death.
And I remember it stopped for a biological break.
So I get up to get out and I go, Mark, why are you staying? He goes, I can't move. I go, what do you mean you can't move?
My left arm had been leaning against the window.
He was frozen to the side of the bus. And I said to him, Mark, where are you going to ever get an opportunity to have experiences like this? This is where you should be.
And actually, I thought, you know what? This is so wacky, it's almost worth doing. Let's give it a go.
I hope he didn't pee in the bus because we were laughing so hard. But that closed the deal. That closed the deal.
What you can see here is the house that Jay rented when he first moved to London back in 1992-93 time frame. And this was actually JMJ's first ever international office.
One of the reasons we rented this house is because it had a car garage. And the car garage became our office. We would start serving martinis around 7 o'clock at night, and we just keep working right through it.
After that, we rented the office at Lyric House in Hammersmith. We had half of the 2nd floor to begin with. And then we took on more space as we grew over the years, and we had that fitted out. The lady who helped us find that office space and helped us on the design side was Sue Harvey Austin.
It was not much to look at when we first arrived, but we made it beautiful, and it really was a lovely environment to work.
But that was really base camp for us for many years in terms of Lyric House, and as we expanded, we took on all of the 2nd floor, and then we took on the 5th floor. And it became home to not only Europe, but really the international business at that time. So we had some consultants flying around the world doing work, but we started to actually evolve the businesses in an international setting, spun out the Middle East, spun out Africa, from basically Lyric House as a base camp.
Mark Britton and I did the initial work in Qatar with Faisal Al-Suwaidi and Qatar Gas. they created their direction statement, which ended up being as dramatic a shift for them as our vision was for us.
That direction statement became a foundational document in their history and took them from a small producer in 1999 to now the world's largest LNG company, producing 44 million tons.
My association with JMJ and with Mark Britton in particular goes back to about 13 or 14 years ago. Since the introduction of that program, we did not have any accident. So I would remember JMJ for the rest of my life.
The work in Australia started in late 1994.
I first met Steve Knisley in Brisbane, and he breezed in the door, sponsored by Bechtel actually.
There was an opportunity to do presentation coaching for Bechtel on a must-win project they had in Australia.
He's a very personable guy, he's very intuitive, he can see through you, he can see BS from a mile away.
They won the job, they put us on as the high-performance team consultant. We had that project, and we also got asked to do high-performance work on a mobile oil project in Melbourne.
A massive explosion and fire erupted at the BP refinery. The explosion killed 15 workers and injured 180 others. The explosion shattered windows in homes and businesses up to 3/4 of a mile away from the 1,200-acre refinery. As thick black smoke billowed from the plant, authorities instructed some 43,000 Texas City residents to stay indoors.
There's got to be a way that these plants can be built and people don't get hurt, and I'm going to be part of figuring that out.
In the mid-90s, we created the safety practice.
Jeffrey and I would meet in my flat every day, and we'd start working on the design of this safety practice, and it was like created from nothing.
Jeffrey Joya sourced, created, and designed the safety practice. The most important word there is sourced. And we've been doing this safety practice based on his sourcing for 20+ years. Unbelievably rare.
Rick Bear picked it up, and he was a personal friend of Hans Krause's. They'd worked together back in Chevron, and he became Hans's coach.
Hans was the project director on the Saudi Aramax project, which is really where the safety practice came alive inside of JMJ.
When I first went to Saudi Arabia and I saw the working conditions of the people on the job site, these were workers from India, from the Philippines, Pakistan. As I recall, you and I had a conversation, and together we decided this is the time to take a stand and let's see what we can do in terms of achieving world-class safety performance.
After the Saudi Aramax project that Hans Krause was managing, Hans went back into the leadership team of what is now PRC, or the Project Resources Company. Hans said, guys, we can build the projects we manage and we can do it without hurting people. Ultimately, they decided to give us 6 pilot projects. The general manager of PRC said, we're stopping the experiment. We've got enough data. We're going to implement JMJ's incident and injury-free process on every capital project that we manage around the world. And so we went from working on 5 of their projects to 30 projects almost overnight.
The trust was gone.
It was a difficult spell.
Jay handed over being CEO, and Jeffrey Joya took the reins.
Jeffrey was a very deep thinker. He had a big heart and a depth of knowledge and understanding about transformation.
And the company was trying to find its way into profitability and also cope with the new management structure and the new team that was leading them.
We'd have feast and famine. You know, you'd sell some work, then you'd be so busy that you'd work that off, but then as you got to the end of it, you had to sell more work to keep everybody working. So we We had these cycles in the company.
And it seemed like things were starting to work.
And you know, we continued to do great work. We continued to evolve our safety practice.
There was a lot of promise and growth in the picture for JMJ, but all that changed when 9/11 happened.
It just was a blow.
The company was actually at risk.
And we were literally having to manage cash day to day.
We didn't have the work or the revenue to support the infrastructure and that we were putting in place. Fortunately, the board took a stand that we must become a profitable company, and that was so that we could do the work that we were meant to do in the world.
We needed someone who could restore trust and lead the company with integrity. And the only person on the court that I could see who could do that was Steve Portner.
Steve Portner brought in a culture of caring, also brought in a culture of accountability.
When Steve Portner became CEO, I think he brought two things. He brought focus and he brought discipline.
He's a great manager. He kind of looks out over the horizon, kind of picks a point, and he moves steadily toward it.
Steve came in when we were struggling and get that business engine going where we were selling our way out of our challenges.
And we started to be successful again, and the obvious question from the community was, in service of what? Who are we becoming? And who are we really? And we started to be able to recruit. We had new people joining, so Steve felt we'd earned the right to do the work on the vision and values.
So Steve and I started to think about what would the process be to generate a horizon or a future that would lead, kind of take the company to the next era.
I was brought in by Rick Stricker to develop our capacity to use Ken Wilber's integral approach.
We use the integral model as a way of distinguishing the subjective interior world, the world of human beings, from the objective world of facts and figures and measurements and plans. And just having people recognize that both of those aspects are vitally important to life and business and work and everything we do, it just has a way of bringing wholeness to any conversation.
Rick presented the results of the integral assessment of JMJ to what was then called the Global Leadership Team at the retreat at which the initial mission, vision, and values were created.
Out of that exercise, we ended up with a draft of the current vision statement. That work was then taken into the company and around the company in a kind of tour to get feedback, to amend and correct and adjust the work based on the community's input. So it very much became a full company creation over the next year.
We create a place of work where people leave at the end of the day even better than when they got in the morning.
It's beyond a job. It's a calling, or it's a vocation, or it's a place to really express yourself.
We work with people to unleash them and enable them to choose to take whatever they want to choose on, and that is at the heart of our business, is at the heart of transformation, is at the heart of the impact that we can create in our business.
We determined that we wanted to create a future where we could make the biggest difference in the world.
At that time, we said we were going to have 3 regions and multiple branches. One region would be the Americas. Another region would be EMEA, Europe, Middle East, and Africa. For a third region, Asia Pacific, and we decided to put an office in Doha and put an office in South Africa, and we decided to put an office in Perth, and we located an office in Singapore as well. So that off-site meeting sourced not only our mission, vision, and values, but it really sourced who we are today and how we're organized.
The Hunger Project inspired the birth of our company 25 years ago. JMJ has given back to the Hunger Project as a corporate sponsor every year that we've been in business. Today, we're sponsoring the Alsansan Epicenter in the eastern region of Ghana, which serves approximately 10,000 local community members. This groundbreaking work helps women especially transform the future for their families and communities.
Transformation has to do with the valuing people for who they are, and realizing that everyone deserves to have a workplace where they feel taken care of.
I think we started a conversation that changed the whole industry. When we first started Incident and Injury Free, people's relationship to it was that it was impossible. Now, it's common for people to believe that people don't have to get hurt at work.
Given our commitment, everybody goes home, nobody gets hurt. We've got to address both personal safety and process safety. It's got to be both and. I'm just as clear as I'm sitting here talking to you. It's got to be both and that's the next steps in our journey.
It's very exciting that we've embarked on this journey of designing the future of our safety practice. We're building on a strong foundation in personal safety and adding what I describe as a whole systems approach.
JMJ is a values, commitment, and leadership-based organization that can take any huge, intractable problem and transform it.
I don't know exactly what's next for JMJ, but I know that it'll be something that's big, bold, and something that we'll all be very proud to author.